Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. As finally, after 40 days, the US government has reached a bipartisan agreement to end the government shutdown, a major bullish event, especially for the crypto market. Laws are going to start getting passed. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is what I'm about to show you. The Bitwise, Franken Templeton, Canary, and 21 shares ETFs for XRP are now listed on the DTCC platform, and we are currently awaiting final SEC approval. With trading launching within the next couple days, this will unlock institutional access to XRP. And $8 to $10 is on the horizon. One of the crypto assets that will follow Zcash is XRP, as the dino coins in the crypto space are having their day in the sun, and with XRP being the third largest crypto in market cap, having ETFs go live, and the government on standby ready to launch yet again. We're heading into Q4 2025 with a bang. It's going to be a November to remember. And it's going to be a very special time to be alive for the XRP army. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, this 2025 tariff crash is identical, almost to the T, to the COVID 2020 crash that we saw in March last time around. It was unbelievable. And what we're going to experience is going to be a similar script, as you can already start to see. The script is being played out while Ripple is at swell, having BlackRock drop trillion-dollar bombshells, as the BlackRock executive Maxwell Stein said the global financial system is ready for large-scale blockchain adoption. Infrastructure from Ripple could soon move trillions on-chain, with the Nasdaq CEO agreeing. Ripple's here at the forefront with the biggest asset manager on stage talking about the future that is inevitable. As Trump is stating, we want America to be the number one in crypto. There shouldn't even be a shadow of a doubt. It's all about the future. And the future is now.
I only care about one thing. Will we be number one in crypto? Crypto has turned out, and in that sense, I've been right. Crypto's turned out to be a massive industry, if you want to call it that. And I'm very proud to say that we are far and away ahead of China and everybody else. Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry, and it'll be very bad. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on crypto, very openly.
Now guys, while you have that in your minds, you have to remember this is the same script as 2020. They're cutting interest rates, and they're giving $2,000 in the form of tariff revenues out to Americans for stimulus. Free money is the name of the game to get people to ignore the pain they're gonna feel. Remember, the overnight repo markets have had money injected. And this is what happened September 2019, that inevitably ended with a crypto bull run. We started seeing crypto prices absolutely boom. We started seeing stimulus just like we're beginning to see now. And with all of this, the government is reopening. An economic trade deal with China is on the table. And we are going to go into 2026 with ETFs going live, ISO 20022 live, a bank charter approved, government shutdown over, interest rate cuts initiated, the Clarity Act on the way. All while Ripple is making $500 million strategic investments. This is led by Fortress Trust and Citadel. And Ripple is being valued currently at $40 billion, as this was one of the bigger announcements from Ripple's Swell Conference that I'm sure you all forgot about. Here, I'm gonna have Brad Garlinghouse say with his chest that XRP is at the forefront of Ripple's mission. This was a powerful moment for the XRP army, as it is cementing our legacies before it all takes place for the world to see. What a time to be alive if you hold XRP.
Morning to everybody. Great to be here. Day 2 of Swell. Honored to be here with Patrick Witt. Before we get started, well, first of all, I'll say it's fun for me to be the interviewer versus the interviewee. So I just get to sit here and ask questions, which is fun for me.
I'm in the hot seat today.
The hot seat for sure. So before we do that, I just want to take a minute, and this is the 9th Swell, which, the very first one that was in Toronto. We have come so far from, maybe 100 people was in a warehouse on the outskirts of Toronto. But in addition to, acknowledging some of the stuff that Ashish pointed out happened overnight, earlier this morning, Ripple announced a $500 million investment from led by Fortress and Citadel, some of the biggest names in finance. And so, although we're not talking about that today, at least wanted to acknowledge that so that people are aware that we're not just ignoring it. It is nice to take a moment to see kind of how far we've come.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it all up, with everything being said in this video from Donald Trump, Fed rate cuts, stimulus checks, the similarities to COVID-19 in 2025, all of this can be wrapped up in one beautiful Thursday night package with an XRP ETF going live. Canary Capital is targeting a Thursday launch. I think it's going to happen. They're finally going to do it. And I believe this is going to be a November to remember for XRP. I believe new all-time highs are on the horizon. And as much as it's taken so long to get to this moment, I think we finally arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, to cap off this video for today, I'm going to leave you with my favorite clip from Brad Garlinghouse at Ripple Swell Conference. And I think you're all going to enjoy it. It brought chills down my spine. And I know it's going to bring chills down yours. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. And before I leave you completely for the day, I have to recommend you sign up for iTrust Capital, my favorite crypto platform to recommend to people who have money in their IRAs or 401ks that they want to get into crypto. There is a no tax penalty rollover on your 401ks and IRAs through iTrust Capital, as I know a lot of people have money in their 401ks that they might be able to allocate to crypto. Maybe there's not much income or savings for you to invest in crypto, but don't let that stop you from getting into XRP if you have money that you could allocate from your 401k or IRA. iTrust Capital has been a household name in the crypto space for a long time, and I trust them to have security for all of you on your journeys. You could sign up down in the description below. And now, guys, I leave you with Brad Garlinghouse.
I am, though, thrilled, and kind of back to one of the things I said earlier, having a Fortress and a Citadel. I mean, these are truly the leading financial players and architects of financial trading in the country. And so for them to come along with us as partners and allies, I think is a very big deal. And I'm thrilled. The corp dev team at Ripple's had a busy year.
What message does that send to Wall Street, to traditional finance, to crypto skeptics?
Get on board. We talked earlier today about the fact that there's still over 50% of the financial institutions in the United States have zero exposure to crypto. There's zero chance that that's going to be true a year from now. That number is going to continue to go down and down. And that is actually great news, because that's tailwinds for the whole industry. Yes, that's tailwinds for Coinbase. That's tailwinds for Circle. But that's also tailwinds for Ripple. So happy about that.
All right, let's talk about XRP. How does XRP fit into your larger M&A strategy?
Well, XRP, and I sometimes have to remind the world of this, but XRP is at the heart and soul of what Ripple is doing. We care deeply. We have called it our North Star. But at the end of the day, we want to do things that are good for the XRP ecosystem. We want to build trust in XRP. We want to build utility in XRP. And we want to build liquidity in XRP. And each of the acquisitions we do, in one way or another, we believe it will do those things. Now, it may not be, some people may look at it and be like, I don't really scratch their head a little bit. Well, I promise you that we see in the three-dimensional game of chess, we see how we believe that's going to evolve. Sometimes we'll probably do things that are more obvious and some less obvious. That's okay with us.
Right, there might be...
One of the advantages of being private is I don't always have to explain myself to public investors.
So that's another reason not to have the IPO anytime soon. But there are critics who might say that this pace of M&A, this blistering pace, is papering over the fact that organic adoption of XRP hasn't fully lived up to its potential. How do you respond to that?
Look, I mean, on one hand, I get it, and I would say, again, macro, one of the challenges for crypto at large is the number one use case is speculation. I mean, how many proven scaled use cases of crypto on any token or any blockchain can you point to? And unfortunately, I do think the industry has to live up to the promise of blockchain over the next 5 years, 10 years.
Do you think that'll still be the case in 5 years' time?
No. I was in Saudi Arabia last week on a panel at the IIF, and this was my FII. That was my primary point, that we are finally, partly because of regulatory clarity, you're seeing more entrepreneurs, more investors, and it's very analogous to what happened in the earliest days of the internet. The 1996 Telecom Deregulation Act provided clarity and structure so that entrepreneurs and investors could come into the internet space and did the money flow in, and the entrepreneurs flowed in. And yes, we saw a dot-com bubble. I think as we get more regulatory clarity, you're going to see more institutions, more capital, more entrepreneurs. Now, on XRP specifically, look, do I think that we have room to grow? Absolutely. But if you told me 3 years ago, you'd have literally, I think there's 100 different interesting startups going on in different aspects, some even competing with the Coinbase, on the consumer side. There's a ton of growth that's going on in the XRP ecosystem. Some of that Ripple has partnered with, some of that we have nothing to do with. And that is because I believe XRP is an extremely efficient blockchain. It's very fast, it's very inexpensive, and it's very scalable. We don't advocate that it's the right one size fits all, that you should do everything on the XRP blockchain. There's other blockchains that are going to be better at different use cases, and that's great. We'll continue to champion XRP use cases we think are uniquely good on that blockchain.
And it's because of that potential that we see that an ETF issuer said a spot XRP ETF will likely launch next week or shortly thereafter, even with the government currently shut down. We've seen that happen with the Solana spot ETF and the Litecoin spot ETF as well. What does having a spot XRP ETF mean for the coin specifically and for Ripple broadly?
Well, look, I think anytime you are seeing the kind of trust and institutional dynamic of an ETF, making it easier to access and bringing capital into the XRP ecosystem, that's good. It's not lost upon me, ETH as a token was kind of lagging the market in terms of the overall market activity in the spring. And then the ETH ETFs went live and ETH went on a tear. I don't think that's a big surprise. You saw people easier access coming in. I think the first ETH ETF grew to $1 billion very, very quickly. I can't remember the exact timeline. But I think you're going to see that happen in the XRP ecosystem because there's a lot of demand from people who don't have the skill set or interest in launching a Coinbase account or what have you, and they want to have exposure to this asset class. So I think it's overdue. It's frustrating that some of these things have taken so long, but I'm not yet saying it's going to happen next week. I know people on the panels have said it's happening next week. I've heard that said before, so I'm not going to count on it. But it's obviously very, very soon, and I think that's good for the industry.